your unified command makes you stronger. Each of the people here have come together on your behalf to work together as one team. We do a delegation of authority to an incident commander, but every single day we are at the table making sure that we're looking at the big picture and not just the individual picture. Because as we know, we stand stronger together than we ever do apart. So we are connected, we are working together as a team on your behalf, and we are going to continue to work together as a team until we put this thing out. As you look at the map here today, you'll see that we had a little bit of activity yesterday that increased the acreage of the fire. Currently, the acreage of the fire is 15,324 acres. We were talking about kind of where we were impacted yesterday. So you'll see we're impacted here, and impacted in the city. Rich is going to kind of talk about kind of what's going on in the National Forest lands. The fire chief is going to talk about what's happening in the city. Another question that people have a lot of concerns about is, where do I go? Where are the shelters? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Another question that a lot of people are having is, how do I find out about my home? I know when you look at this map, without me having anything on it, you can kind of see an area where you live. We are working really hard on putting together an assessment. The worst thing in the world we could do is to just kind of throw some ballpark figure out at you or estimate that it's your house, when in reality, it's not you at all. We've had a lot of successes. We've had some places where we've had some fallbacks, where we haven't been successful. But we've had way more successes than we've had failures. We're early in the season. This fire is going to be going on for a long time. A lot of people were saying, hey, it looks like things are calming down. It's maybe calming down in one area, but where it's not roaring here, it's roaring someplace else. But we're committed to this fight. We're going to be in this together in the unified command to the very end. With that, I think it's important that you guys hear from the fire chief and talk about what's kind of going on in the city. And we'll just kind of work our way through this. At the end, we're going to have some folks talk to us from Public Health and Safety and Colorado Springs Utilities, because there has been a lot of concern about utilities and just public health things that are going on. So with that, let's get started.
Thanks, Jerry. Good morning. Rich Brown, Colorado Springs Fire Department Fire Chief. Like Jerry's talking about, we've been in constant conversation since Saturday. As you all know, we've been dealing with this situation since Saturday about noon. But what I do want to talk about today is to not be deceived by what you see across the valley there. Our people have been fighting that fire, all of our people, let's make that clear, all of our people have been fighting that fire all night long. They're fighting it as we speak. And the thing that I want to highlight to you all is that this is not a defensive situation by any stretch. There are countless examples of saves, house saved. There are some homes impacted, there's no question about it. I am absolutely not prepared to release that number. We don't know the number. Again, this is an active fire. It's not even remotely close to being contained. So please do not be deceived by what you see across the valley with the smoke laying down the way it is. But again, we're working as a team on this issue, making sure that we have all our bases covered from north to Denver to south to Pueblo. All of our partners are here working this in concert. I also want to talk about that we still have a city to run. You know, there's 20 fire stations out there, and police officers and firefighters running calls left and right because the business of the business is still at hand. We still have a city to manage, and we are doing that. We've had a lot of our neighbors come in and fill a lot of our stations. We've backfilled our stations with a lot of our DOD partners around the city. And so I just want you to know that while this is a monster event happening behind us, the city is still managed. Let's be very clear about that. I mean, it still runs as it typically does with many calls for service that go on that are not attached to this fire here. But I do want to emphasize that we are not in a defensive position. We're in an offensive position. We're doing everything we can to save homes going forward with all the members of the city, the county, the state, and the federal partners that are involved in this. And again, we'll give as much immediate updates as we can going forward, but right now we're not prepared to do that. Thank you.
Good morning, Colorado Springs Police Chief Pete Carey. Last night, as you already know, was a very busy night. In addition to running the rest of the city. The police department, in conjunction with the fire department and other law enforcement officials, evacuated approximately 26,000 people to various sites throughout the city. Today's going to be another very busy day. I want to let you know that the affected neighborhoods will be protected by our police officers at both traffic control points and officers in vehicles. Expect to see some police officers that aren't Colorado Springs police officers, deputy sheriffs, and some police officers from other jurisdictions helping out. So, as Chief Brown said, the city's in good hands. We're continuing to monitor the situation as well as respond to any other situations that aren't part of this fire. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Jeff Kramer with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. I want to first start off by saying I fielded a number of phone calls this morning from media looking for updates, etc. And I was posed a common question. They were asking if I'd ever seen anything like this in Colorado Springs. And I'm a native of Colorado Springs, and I can tell you that this event that's going on is certainly unprecedented in the city for sure. And as a member of this community, I'm impacted. I'm as concerned as all of you out there and all of the folks that are affected directly by this fire and indirectly by the fire. I want to just reiterate something that has been a common theme from the speakers that went before me. Teamwork. I want to share two stories that, small stories, but they reiterate and solidify that theme that really permeates this entire operation. We had a phone call come in last night from a commander from one of the divisions of the Colorado Springs Police Department, and he said, hey, would you guys be able to maybe offer some personnel tomorrow, meaning today, to assist, giving our officers some relief on some traffic control points? Of course, I ran the request by the sheriff, and his response was basically, you give them whatever we can give them to help them out. And so we're working on that plan and making sure they're going to get whatever personnel we have that we can offer for that effort. Again, a small story, but one that expresses the attitude that really permeates this entire operation. Rich Heberlo, who's one of our fire investigators, he made some phone calls to some of the rural fire districts in the area, and through some quick phone calls, he ended up gaining about 32 apparatus and 100 firefighters represented across 10 different agencies that dropped what they were doing to come assist as well. So that's important to know. Now just quickly, an update on the Highway 24 corridor. Just briefly, that area remains relatively unchanged. That line is holding. We do not have fire on the south side of Highway 24 through UPass. There was at least one spot over. However, because of the diligence of the crews located there, they were on that very quickly, and that has not affected that area. The evacuations we have remained in place. Highway 24 is still closed as well. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Steve Falk, Mayor for the City of Colorado Springs. Our police department yesterday evacuated 26,000 people in short order with no injuries that we know of. I'm so proud of our fire department and our police department for the professional work they've done so far. As Jerry said, we are a unified group here fighting this fire. And I'm very proud of this team and all you're doing. These people are working 24/7. There are hundreds and hundreds of people behind them on the lines. And I would just say right now as a city that we are unified as well. This is a very difficult time in our city, but we will get through this together, and we will be stronger because of this experience. And we need to keep in our minds and our hearts all those people who have been impacted by this fire, and all those who are risking their lives to fight it. Thank you.
Brett Waters, I'm the Emergency Management Director for the City of Colorado Springs. So I want to give you a few updates right now. The shelters that we have open at this point are still Lewis Palmer High School, Cheyenne Mountain High School, and the Southeast YMCA. They also have the Summit Middle School and Divide. Those still have capacity. We still have capacity of those shelters. Our goal of those shelters not only to shelter people to make sure they have the updates and the recent information about them being evacuated. So please stop by there if you need information. One of the issues that we also want to discuss is the issue of people thinking or wanting to know if their home has been burned. And we're going to do that in a couple ways. One is you can go to redcross.org, and under the getting assistance, there's loved ones, and you can check in with loved ones there and communicate if you're worried about a loved one who's perhaps not accounted for at this point. We don't know of anyone at that point, at this point, however. We're going to do an initial damage assessment to identify which homes have been impacted from this event. We're working closely with Colorado Springs Fire Department, our incident management team, and the police department to do that safely. As Chief Brown talked about, this is an active fire. We want to do this safely, but we also want to get you the information that you need to make sure how to know how you've been impacted. This is important to us and obviously important to you. There's a couple ways we're going to do that. We're going to cross-check that. We want to contact you directly on that. We're going to have more information in our afternoon briefing. In the meantime, we also have the Joint Information Center set up. You should have the phone numbers, and I'll repeat a couple of those. 719-520-7058 and also 720-402-7935. Also, as something of note, we have a animal shelter set up at the Cheyenne Mountain High School. The Humane Society, as I understand it, is full at this point. However, they set up a secondary site at 3650 North Nevada for animal sheltering. Lastly, as the mayor and Chief Kerry talked about, 26,000 residents were evacuated. I want you to know that we've been committed to planning for this event. We have done evacuation planning and modeling with traffic for this scenario. Prior to this happening, law enforcement stepped up before this happened and worked with emergency management and fire, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments to actually do planning, evacuation planning and modeling for this very scenario. So, thank you.
Good morning, Rich Harvey, the incident commander for the Waldo Canyon incident. Yesterday was a very challenging day, and it's almost a historically challenging day. And I'd like to reiterate what a lot of folks up here have already said, that our response to that challenge has been unified. It's been across all agencies and jurisdictions. It's been across law enforcement, police, medical. The whole community, in fact, is working together along Colorado and the nation to support the citizens and the firefighters that are out there on the line doing the work that needs to be done. I told you last night, we had 800 firefighters on the line. We brought in 200 more last night, and we have more in the pipeline coming today and getting out on the line today. We've been using every possible avenue to bring in resources available to us. We've gone through the county EOC, we've gone through federal ordering systems, we've gone neighbor to neighbor, we've tapped friends, we've gone to mutual aid. We've done everything we can to get the right resources here to do the job. Our planning staff was up late last night, taking the latest assessment and turning that into a plan of action on the incident for today. And our focus out there today is on the entire fire. Okay, you'll see a perimeter behind me, and you'll see these divisions labeled F, E, C, all those different divisions. We have firefighters in each of those divisions with the equipment necessary to start doing the construction of line, establishment of anchor points, the point protection for structures and values at risk in that area, to be actively engaged on a collaborative approach to getting this fire closer to containment. We continue to be at 5% containment. The good news yesterday was that we were able to hold what we had established here in 24, along the 24 corridor, got it down closer to the road, and we're making some progress. As you know, the bad news yesterday was this was a very much of a wind-driven fire. We expect further trouble from the weather today. Not so much in terms of sustained winds from one direction, but we expect the development of thunderstorms over the fire this afternoon. Thunderstorms present a unique problem for us in that the wind can come in any direction from those at any time with pretty strong gusts. So we do expect all of our lines to be challenged again today. We hope to have the positions both on the ground, or the personnel both on the ground, in the air, and supporting them to be able to deal with what the fire throws at us in the best possible way today. I would like to say that the cooperative efforts are most noticeable in the safety record. Several people have mentioned the evacuations of 26,000 people without injury or incident. I'd also like to stress that 1,000 firefighters, no accidents or injuries to report, as they did their job through the night. And that 1,000 does not even include the Colorado Springs Fire Department, the cooperating structural fire departments along the front that contributed to the effort. I'm very proud of their efforts. They're going to continue to do it, They had a rough day yesterday, and firefighters are kind of one of those critters that when you kick them, they get back up tougher the next day. They're going to go out there with smiles on their faces and try to do a good job for you all today. Thank you.
So before we go into your questions, there has been a lot of questions about utilities, about public health and safety. So Jill, why don't you talk to us about public health and safety, and then Andy, I'll have you talk about the utilities. Go ahead.
Good morning, my name is Jill Law. I am the Public Health Director, El Paso County Public Health. I'm also a registered nurse. Air quality has certainly been a topic now since before Saturday, and the air quality is unhealthy. And I don't think I need to tell you, it's certainly worse today, and it was much worse last night. One of the things that we're hearing reporting from the community is if they're outside too long, they're noticing shortness of breath. Some people are feeling somewhat lightheaded. I've heard people tell me they felt a little bit dizzy. Now's the time, if you haven't been listening to the messaging, I really need you to listen now. And that is, if you can stay inside, please do so. If you can't find, if you don't have air conditioning in your house, join up with your neighbor if they have it. Stay indoors, keep the windows closed and the air conditioning on. You also would want to consider putting that on recirculate, as well as your cars. It is certainly not good conditions. Previously, at the health department, we were talking more localized to the northwest part of the city. It is throughout the county, and so I really need you to listen up to that health message. The other thing is drink plenty of water, because we are certainly in very hot conditions. So if you don't have air conditioning and we're telling you to close your windows, it can get pretty hot. Drink lots and lots of water. If you can't get cooled down, maybe visit your local library, local mall, someplace where there's cool temperatures. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Andy Funches. I'm the Water Systems Field Operations Manager with Colorado Springs Utilities. Don't want to take a lot of your time this morning. I just wanted to assure all of you that all 4 services at Colorado Springs Utilities are fully operational and fully functional. We never lost any service at any point in time during this event, and we are still providing full service. We have shut off gas service to the areas that were severely affected by the fire, where there are no residents living in those homes. Everywhere else is fully functional, fully operational. We never had a tank fail. We had several pumps fail for short periods of time. Those electric systems were put back in place, and all of our pumps, all of our tanks are fully 100% operational. There's also been a lot of questions about our treatment process and about water quality. I want to assure you that water quality has not been compromised at all. We're running just the same as we were before this event ever took place. Our water is perfectly healthy, perfectly delicious, like always. So I would just encourage you, don't worry about your utility service. We really try to stay behind the scenes and not be in front of the cameras, and that's the way we plan on being. If you have any questions, please call our customer service line at 448-4800, and thank you.
Sir, County Commissioners were just wanting me to, once again, to re-emphasize to people about the evacuations, that if you are in an area that's pre-evacuated or evacuated mandatory or voluntary, heed the evacuations. The weather changes so quickly, and while you individually may think that you're fast enough to get out, and collectively thousands of people have that same thought, it doesn't quite work the way that you planned. So one of the greatest things we can do is to make sure that we're still paying attention and heeding those evacuations. One last point, I want to remind people we are getting close to that holiday called the 4th of July. And what do we all do on the 4th of July? We celebrate, and we use fireworks. And right now, this is the time when people start buying those. I know there's bans on that right now, so just to remind folks, now is not the time to do that. Let's find some other ways that we can do that. So, there's lots of questions. I'm going to do my best to help field the questions that you have in an orderly fashion and get the right person to answer that question for you. I do see that hand, and I see that hand as well. So, we're going to do that. But if you guys can work with us, show me your hand. I will recognize you. It may be a while before I get to you, but I will get to you, and we'll make sure we'll answer questions as quickly as we can. I also want to say that there's a lot of work that we got to do today. And so we're going to probably try to limit the question time here to about 5-10 minutes, get to as much as we can, because each and every one of these people are working on your behalf, and I got to make sure that we all get back so we can do that. So this afternoon, we can follow up on some of the things that we said we wanted to have for this afternoon. All right? So with that, first question, yes, sir.
They know the identity of the person who started this fire. We're reporting that sources are saying you all have identified a person of interest. What do you want to say to people who lost hope by no progress in fighting this?
The question was, there's a lot of rumors and things on Craigslist about that, maybe we know the person responsible. First of all, we still haven't determined the cause of this fire. There are lots of fires going on throughout the forest. There are arsonists out there. These are still under investigation. We do not have anything to comment on that at this point, except to say it's still under. I cannot confirm that.
I can tell you that we do not have a person of interest. I can tell you that the tip line is still up and running, and that Forest Service continues to staff that. As we mentioned before, they're receiving a number of calls, kind of inundated with calls, if you will. For now, there's been no effort being able to be made because of staffing levels to actually be able to sort through those or prioritize them yet. So at this point, it's really a collection point. We have had some information come through, sites like Facebook and different emails, and we're making sure that those are getting funneled to that same source so that those can be considered once that sifting process begins. There is no person of interest identified in this investigation.
Right here, sir.
A follow-up to that question, my own question, sir. There was something on our station that we were talking about a 1990 Camry white male, potentially as a person to look for within the Waldo Canyon area on Friday or perhaps Saturday. That was last night. Has that changed?
I'm not familiar with that report, Eric. I apologize. And I'm not sure where that's coming from. Obviously, the tip line's receiving a lot of information. Folks obviously are trying to be helpful, and we appreciate that. Again, I'm not sure what the details of the information coming in, but the sifting process has not begun. I'm not aware of any particular vehicle or person that we're looking for.
Okay, and my question is, Rich, the map has been so amazing to be able to show it for an evacuee as myself and also as a news person. Centennial at one point was the demarcation. In other words, there was nothing past Centennial. Obviously, mountain shadows on this side, Centennial here, and then across the street. Where are we at now? If you could give us the strategy based on the maps to give us a better feel for where you are now.
Probably that. The question was basically where are we at with the perimeter of the fire, what are the planned activities out there specifically for today? Okay, so I will try to answer that. I mean, obviously we have a lot of personnel in this area doing a couple things. We're trying to ensure that the structures that are in there are well protected now from what it is. They're starting to mop up and establish some solid lines in there, make sure we know exactly where the fire is, what the situation is among those houses, among the open space between the houses, and get that knocked out. This blank is obviously a high priority. We're trying to get these lines in. We have crews coming at it from both directions. And when I say crews, I mean we have fire engines in there with water to suppress any fire that's there. When you can get those engines with their hoses close to the fire, we have a very high advantage with that. We also have ground troops, mostly hotshot crews in that area, and they are establishing the containment lines, actually putting a physical barrier between the fire and the spread direction that would want to go. And we also have aviation assets, just to keep an eye on it, and if there's flare-ups, we can bring in buckets, and if they need to, as they work out into the wildlands, that's where you see the retardant flames lay in the lines. So that's kind of it here. We have, as I said earlier, this is we held on to Cedar Heights. We were able to do that. We're going to start moving around with that line from Cedar Heights this way and begin heading north. The 24 Canyon, as the sheriff mentioned yesterday, we continue to have firefighters spread out all along that canyon on both sides of the road looking for possible spot fires. We did pick up one spot yesterday, got across 24, we caught it quickly and got on it. So we have firefighters in both east and westbound lanes so that we can get quick access if something gets across and continue to monitor it. We had some movement, as you can see here. This is the Wellington Gulch, and it's moving off to the north with this kind of up canyon, upslope winds. We do have a containment line that we're starting to build out in front of this with dozers supported by aviation assets and hand crews to stop the northern spread of this fire from coming in off of 24 and headed for Rampart Range Road today. This line here, we have established a line along the road in here. We fired off of this road last night, brought it into Rampart Reservoir, and this line is holding as we speak right now. Obviously, the day is going to change as we work around it. What's very interesting to note, I think, and it's not shown on this map, but last night we had a spot fire from here cross Rampart Reservoir and become established on the other side. So when you're talking about the type of fire behavior we're dealing with out there, it's spotted across the reservoir of almost a half a mile to a mile across. There is a road and a pipeline power line in here that we were very concerned about on the northern edge of the fire, and we have a lot of manpower, both equipment and ground troops, heavy equipment. Dozers and some of the feller bunchers and masticators that can start to clear the brush on both sides of the road. Dozers to improve the road. We try to get it here. These guys work this way. We're going to try and get people in here. And we feel we have a good anchor point where the fire can't get us. Our goal is to start to establish that line, to hold on to what we got, to get in there and mop it up so that we can avoid spot fires or anything going, and hang on when the thunderstorms come.
The bottom line is make sure it's clear. Mountain Shadows and Peregrine has to jump from Centennial. Remember, Mountain Shadows here, Centennial's here.
Yeah.
You go further east, like Pitch Valley, you party center has to jump. Centennial will go east. That's correct.
That is the way we understand it to be. The fire has been maintained to the west of Centennial.
Question here. Happy Nelson with KKTV. Question for you, I believe, Rich.
Sure.
We've been talking a lot about these spot fires and the fact these embers can blow for a considerable distance. Now that we're into a more heavily populated area, is there potential that the embers can blow farther into the city from that fire line? Is that something that could create more problems for you today? And if so, have we already exhausted all of our resources, or is there potential for something more?
Good question. The spotting distance from these fuel types, and bear with me as you visualize, say, a tree torching, throwing embers up into the air. It's hot, it's dry. The hotter or the drier it is in the air, the longer those embers can stay glowing, i.e. hot, as they move through the atmosphere. We've seen spotting distances from this fuel type up to about a half a mile. So those embers, driven by the wind, can jump a half a mile, and the probability of ignition from those landing, based on our fire behavior forecast, is about 65%. So for 100 embers, you get 65 little starts. When it gets into subdivisions, the fire physics doesn't change. The fuel types change a little bit. That's where we start talking about defensible space and the type of roofs. We had some problems last night with shake roofs, because shake roofs are very receptive to embers. Our firefighters know that. They keep an eye on that stuff. And if we can get that ember shower, so to speak, that comes from a torch, we're pretty effective. That's why we need so many people, because it's a lot of eyes, because there's a lot of embers out there. That's where all this partnership comes in. We're using people with their expertise. The Colorado Springs Fire Department is really good at structure protection. We've got folks that are really good at the wildland side, and we got folks that intermingle both of them. So it's a very collaborative effort to make sure we got the personnel out there. So spotting remains a problem. The second part of your question, do we have enough? Do we have more coming? We're utilizing every mechanism possible to us to get additional resources in here, because as the fire gets bigger, the perimeter gets bigger, the horsepower needs, so to speak, the personnel necessary to deal with that perimeter does increase. They are coming. We got 200 new folks in last night, and that's just from the federal resource ordering system. We got hundreds more from the neighbors, from the cooperators, from friends of friends, so to speak. We are reaching out that way, and the system is actually delivering us more resources as we speak.
Can you just give me the total updated evacuation figure?
Total evacuation updated figure.
question is total evacuation number for the city of Colorado Springs. We're looking at close to about 31,600 residents as far as the city goes.
The last question right here.
So as a part of that, I know we talked a lot about mitigation and trying to help not have those fields around our homes. So those people who maybe aren't evacuated yet, but may potentially be soon, what are some things that maybe we should be looking at or trying to do so that maybe they can help do with the potential of those spot fires, trying to prevent them?
Okay, the question dealt with the people that are still in their homes and possibly threatened long-term or by a new fire. What can they do to help prevent or protect their house? Clearly, some of the things that the firefighters look at when we're in our triage phase going in, clearing any pine needle or debris from your roof, anything that could be a receptive fuel tank, clearing flammable vegetation, even wood piles, your wood piles away from your house, so that the fire, we try to create as much defensible space working out. So clear debris, clear dead brush, make sure things are green. If you got a garden hose, use it to wet stuff down. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's websites out there about it. I don't need to get into the details right now of defensible space, but Google defensible space and follow those general principles. You should be better prepared than you are today.
You've got the last question.
Couple of things. Will there or are there any new evacuations? And also, we've been hearing that some homes on the Air Force Academy proper right now are being threatened by some planes.
The question was, are there any new evacuations? Or will there be any new evacuations? And the second question was, were there any structures threatened?
Being threatened right now in the Air Force Academy.
And the second question was, we heard that there are homes actually being threatened on the Air Force Academy. Could we confirm that? So in terms of evacuations,
Brett Waters, Emergency Manager Director. Question is on evacuations. I can speak to the city of Colorado Springs. We know of no new evacuations at this time. What we do is evaluate with the Colorado Springs Fire Chief, the incident management team on the fire behavior. That's what drives the evacuations. And so we'll be doing that throughout the day and throughout this event on where the evacuation should be, how they should be conducted. And so at this time we have no new evacuations. We will send out a PDF to the media on current city mandatory evacuation, just so we're very clear on that situation because it was so dynamic last time.
okay. So in answer to the Air Force Academy, we did evacuate residences on there, but I've not had any confirmation of any homes actually being impacted. Does that answer your question? With that, we'll be back at 4 today for a briefing. We'll be here for a while if you need individual interviews. But once again, I just encourage you, let's get those quickly. These folks are going to try to get back to work so we can have all the answers to the questions that you're going to have this afternoon. Last thing, the Red Cross did want me to tell folks they still have availability in the evacuation centers, and there are people here from the Red Cross if you want follow-up questions with that. With that, thank you.
Just a correction on the total county evacuations of El Paso County. We're looking at 32,500 for total city and county evacuations. That's all right.
Combination of the two?
Yes, it is.
And so the individual figure for the unincorporated areas of the county is 3,485.
Okay, you have been listening to that live conference going on at Coronado High School. Fred and I are going to kind of recap it in case you missed